up, you guys? I'm back with another video. I hope you guys are enjoying the content that I'm giving you guys back to back all about ODU and all of the tea and everything like that. But without further ado, let's get started into this video.
Hey, pop the trunk, I open up, I sold my soul a good price, out of sight, my whole got talent.
Okay, so as you guys see by the title, we're going to be talking about being black at a PWI. Before I even start on talking about it at all, I do want to let you guys know in the first portion of the video, I'm going to be talking about two people that I asked about being black at a PWI. And if you do not know what a PWI stands for, I'm going to tell you guys right now, because I will be using that term a lot. It's a predominantly white institution. Just for everybody, you know, who didn't know, it's pretty much like you have your PWIs and you have your HBCUs. So, oh, something's in my eye. So, yeah. So like I said just a couple of seconds ago, I'm first going to be talking about two people's responses, and then towards the end I'm going to be giving you guys my own personal opinion, and I will let you know when it's my personal opinion. So let's start with the two people I did ask. So I did ask them a list of questions just to kind of help them and guide them, just in case they didn't know and stuff like that. So the first question I asked was, let's see, describe your experience as a black woman / man / trans person navigating a white university. So the response was, I feel like ODU definitely does a good job on embracing the black community with all the clubs and organizations that are offered. For me, in my experience, all of the organizations that I have come across were either run by black people or that was majority of the population of the organization. So, yeah. And then the second question I asked are, what are some of the highlights and / challenges of navigating white spaces as a black person? So the girl I asked, she went on and said, my experience as a black woman navigating a white university, ODU, has turned out a lot better than I initially expected. I don't really see ODU as a PWI because I came from a high school where it was only 30 black girls in my class out of 140. So I haven't even experienced the hardships that I did in my high school at ODU yet. However, I'm thankful for that because being in an environment like my high school really tested my character in ways I don't want to have to experience again. Wow, girl, that was deep, but I have experienced that before. At previous schools and everything. And then she answered number 3. Let me see. So number 3 was, what have you learned having to navigate a white university as a black? So the girl goes on to say, what I've learned on how to navigate at a white school is mainly just always be the sharpest version of yourself. Oh my God, that is so true. She said at times it may be tiring because we can't always be perfect or on point. People have off days. Just try to be as consistent with that as possible because you have to expect the fact that someone will always going to be looking at you a little more carefully, watching to see when you'll slip up so they can be right about you. And who you are. But as long as you maintain your true character and I'm struggling right now. You maintain your true character and you handle business how you're supposed to, then that gives them no choice but to respect you. So you're so true on what she just said. That is so true. I am not going to talk about anything that she said right now, whether I agree with it or don't agree with it. I'm just going to go on and say the last girl's opinion, and then I will go on to say my personal thoughts of being a black person at a PWI. So the next girl, let me scroll down and get her name. Okay. She answered number 4, 5, and 6, which is actually really good because I only had 6 questions. So the first girl answered 1, 2, 3. The second girl answered 4, 5, 6. So 4, let me find 4. Number 4 is, what advice would you give to a black person in order to successfully navigate a PWI? She said number 4, she said be confident in your own personality, don't change just because the school is majority white, and be outgoing, talk to new people, join clubs, etc. You'll be happier if you have a lot of friends. So then number 5 is, do you feel included in activities at a PWI such as pledging for sororities or fraternities? She said, I do feel included in activities, but I feel like some sororities and fraternities are more welcoming than others. And her last response was number 6, and that is, do you feel that the PWI embraces black culture by having black orientated clubs? And she said, I feel like somewhat embraced, but still the presence of black orientated clubs is a bit scarce. So you heard of them, 2 current black ODU students. So now I'm going to go on to talk about my personal opinion, and I will touch on a little bit of what they said, whether I agree with it in my experience. So the first question, once again, just in case you did not know, the first question is, describe your experience as a black woman, man, trans person navigating a white university. So I'm going to answer all of the questions, and then I'll go ahead and navigate through theirs. So, honestly, being a black person at PWI can sound intimidating, I'm not gonna lie, especially because I do feel like there are some black people that are gonna push you to go to an HBCU, but an HBCU is not for everybody, and that is okay to admit if you're black. I feel like a lot of people like have a problem with admitting that, or they wanna go on you because you're saying that's not for me. It's not saying you're not for your race. It's just saying that particular school is not for you. That education is not for you, and that is okay. So I think that's the first thing that I need to put out there, because I definitely do know I got so many negative comments from people when I personally came out and said HBCU is not for me. It's not what I want, whatever. So it is okay to acknowledge that an HBCU is not for you, and it is okay to acknowledge that a PWI is not for you. Either way, it is okay. It's not you being racist. It's not you saying I don't support my culture or I don't support another. It honestly is about your education. So think about that first. But now to answer the question, my experience being a black person at PWI has honestly been fine. This is not my first time going to a predominantly white school. So with that being said, for me it honestly feels the same. Do I feel like there are racial problems here? I have not experienced any, especially because I came from schools that had racial problems, and personally I haven't experienced anything or any at ODU. I cannot speak for all black people across the board at ODU, but these are my experience. I have not experienced any racial issues at a PWI at ODU. I do feel like, although ODU is classified as a PWI and is listed under that, I do feel like there are a lot of black people, a lot of different races here and stuff like that. So don't just think, oh, I'm gonna be in a class of 300 white kids and there's only gonna be 2 black kids. That's not necessarily the case all the time. There may be some cases like that, but personally I have been in classes where I feel like the ratio was pretty even. Sometimes it may have been a few extra, 5 extra white kids compared to black kids, but overall it was nothing that you felt intimidated by. So then the next question is, what are some highlights and / challenges of navigating white spaces as a black person? Some of the highlights is, honestly, I feel like going to a PWI and just being at a PWI is you get the experience of being in the real world. Because like I said, I'm not going to dog no HBCU. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I do feel like the HBCU sometimes, it's not the real world. Because at the end of the day, there is not just going to be black people at your job. There's not just going to be black people that you're going to work with. You may want to just work with black people, but if we're being realistic, you're going to have to work with other races. So I definitely do feel like that is a highlight, that I do get to experience different races, different cultures and stuff like that, just because that is the real world. That's not saying, oh, I know some people oh, I want to be with my race and everything, because they're all about empowerment and black people this, black people that. I understand that, but these are just my opinions. I honestly feel like that's not the real world, and I'm being realistic with you. You may have white teachers at an HBCU, but at the end of the day, I feel like the PWI that I'm at kind of sets you up for the real world, letting you know you're not, it's going to be other races, and there may be times that you may be the only black person in the office, the classroom, the meeting, anything, but it's you're prepared for it because you went to a college like that. I'm not saying the college ratio is like I said, 5 whites, 1 black. I'm not saying that at all, but you are prepared for it, and you are put in situations like that, and you just get to learn from the situations and stuff like that. Now, what are some of the challenges? I I can't really think of any challenges that I've had at a PWI so far. Yeah, I don't really know any challenges right now that I've currently had at a PWI. So the next question is, what have you learned having to navigate at a white university as a black person? I feel like I've learned that accept yourself. No one's going to accept you unless you accept your own self. And I definitely did realize that. And I definitely did learn that it's kind of like with the first. Okay guys, sorry, my camera just cut off. I don't know why it keeps doing that in every video. But the question is, what advice would you give to a black person in order to successfully navigate a PWI? Honestly, I would just give them, be yourself, be confident, be positive, just do what you gotta do, come to school, get good grades, and just do you. If you need help, ask a professor. Doesn't really matter. Honestly, just being you and just being confident and don't letting anybody mess up your self-esteem or your confidence or your image or anything like that, because there definitely are people like that in college. And honestly, even though you may think you're in college, there are still catty people, so just don't let them mess you up and mess up your mindset and what you really came to school to accomplish. Do you feel like included in activities at a PWI, such as pledging for sororities and fraternities? Okay, so I do feel included in activities. I don't feel like there's certain activities that are for one race and not the other. However, let me touch on this. However, I personally feel like there are no black sororities. So no Divine Nine, none of that. So there are no AKAs, no Deltas. There are sororities on campus, but they're not white. I mean, they're not black sororities when black people think of sororities and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. So that is one of the cons that I do not like about ODU, because I would like to consider to pledge. I want at least the option to, to pledge if I want to pledge. But yeah, there are a lot of sororities and fraternities. However, they're mainly for white people that are currently active on campus. I'm not really sure about the fraternities because I never fully looked into them. I only really looked into sororities. So yeah, just giving you guys heads up. So you guys were asking me about, do they have AKAs, they have the Divine Nine, all of that. No, they do not have the Divine Nine. Let me see. Do you feel that the PWI embraces black culture by having black oriented clubs? Okay, I understood both girls from this. I do feel like there are some that are just like, there are no clubs or there are barely any clubs, and I do feel like there are some clubs. I honestly just feel like you have to find the right club where black people are actually doing what they have to do, making it a real club. I have touched on this before, that clubs don't really seem like clubs because they're not organized. That's not to say all clubs are not organized, but there are some, and there are a lot of clubs that are not organized. So really, and I do feel like there are some clubs that are more directed towards black people and more directed towards white people, but that does not stop either race from joining whatever club they feel like is, their calling. So yeah. And the last question is, the last question is, how would you say your overall experience has been the first year? Okay, so my overall experience of being a black person at PWI has honestly been good. I have not experienced any racial slurs or anything like that. I have not experienced anyone calling me out of my name, and you guys know what I mean. Honestly, when it comes to being black at ODU and PWI, I honestly have had a good experience, a good first year. Each semester has been personally good. I've never felt like I've been, called out by a teacher or, put in situation by students or teacher or staff or anything like that. So personally, I do feel like it went well for being a black person at ODU. I also do feel like ODU is really big onto making sure that every race is comfortable and is a little bit for everybody. So yes. Now I just had to talk a little bit about what both girls said. So I'll just start with the girl that I recently just talked about. And I do agree when she's talked about the little fraternities and sororities that some are welcoming more than others. I pretty much already touched on that, so I do kind of agree with her on that one. With the clubs, I already talked about the clubs, about some being there are some that are present, but there's not as many. And what was her for? and her success. And I did talk about, you know, how to successfully navigate a PWI as a black person. I do agree with hers was pretty much just like be yourself, be confident, have your own personality, join clubs, be outgoing, stuff like that. I do agree with her on that. Now we're going to talk about the first girl I talked about in the beginning of the video. And her questions, her first one was, describe your experience as a black person. I really can't talk about that one because that's really her experience. And then number 2 was, number 2 was her just talking about what she experienced being like in a school that only had 30 black girls at a graduating class of 140. And personally, I have experienced that, not at ODU, but at previous schools I've been at, as I touched on before. And I definitely do not feel like that is the same at ODU. And she even said that too. She definitely was anticipating more of, like, you know, kind of defending yourself, being on guard, having a shield up here at ODU. But I definitely do agree with her. Like, you don't really have to do all that. You'll find your own group. You'll find your own friends and stuff like that. And you know, being a black person here isn't like as hard as it may be at another school. I'm not going to say all PWIs are the same. I'm just talking about ODU. So, yeah. And then she answered number 3, which was, once again, what have you learned while navigating a white university? And she pretty much was just talking about, like, be on your sharpest, like, do you, even though it may be tiring, you know, just try to be the best that you can, and don't give them a reason to carefully look at you and don't step up. And I already talked about that in my opinion part 2, and I definitely do agree with that. I do see more black people, like, bust down, if you mean, like, dressed up. I don't really see as many black people going to school in their pajamas and all of that. I do see a lot of people dressed up with nice jeans, or, like, if they do have sweatpants on, it's sweatpants with a nice hoodie, and their hair is done, you know, sneakers on their feet, or nice slides on their feet, you know, like that. They still do look put together. And I do know some people get the image, like, of college, like, oh, everyone's gonna be in pajamas all day, like that. I do see that with other races. However, I do not really see that with the black race, and I think that's another reason why I was dressing the way I was dressing first and second semester, like, always looking put together, because it's like, in a sense, if you don't look put together, people will, like, kind of stare at you, I feel like. And it may not be drastic, or they may not even be staring, and I may just be thinking that. But overall, like, I do feel like that's why I was dressing the way I was dressing, like, just still put together, because black people on this campus don't really be dressing any type of way. Like, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. They really do be looking put together. I'm not saying they have to have designer on, designer that, like, not saying that at all, but they still do look put together, like a nice outfit, not looking like they rolled out of bed. Their hair is most likely combed, face washed, you know, have lotion on, all of that little stuff. I do see a lot of black girls having their nails always done, brows always done, lashes, lip gloss, all of that. So I still do see that being done, and I definitely do agree with her when she said that. And I'm not even sure if she's really talking about appearance-wise or just overall, but if she is talking about appearance-wise, being on your sharpest, I do believe in that. But I think that is all for today's video. This was a very requested video on how it is being black at the PWI. So I hope I was able to give you guys a little insight on how it is being black at ODU. But yeah, I think that's all for today's video. If you have not already, go check out my other ODU videos about all of the tea on ODU housing, meal plans, safety, all of that. Without further ado, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll be back with more videos. Adios.